At this time, I'd like to call the Monday, June 8th, 2015 Planning Commission meeting to order. That brings us to the first item on the agenda, which is roll call. Pidd here, Price,
Here.
Longton,
Here.
Hema, Charnell, Schoblum,
Here.
and Lindell.
Here.
That brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I've got a motion by Mr. Price.
Second.
Go ahead.
We'll do Mr. Lundell here. Second by Mr. Lundell. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to number 4, which is the approval of the minutes from the May 11th, 2015 Planning Commission meeting.
I move that we approve.
I've got a motion by Mr. Longton
I'll second.
and a second by Mr. Lundell. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to number 5, which is public input. Citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda. Before speaking, please give your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Those are the two applicants, so they won't have any.
So they're already on here.
They're already.
Well, then, we'll just move on to the public hearing. At this time, I'd like to open the conditional use permit public hearing for Soul Fisher.
Maybe just present from here. Is this on? Yeah. Present from here. This is Mark Norton is here representing Soul Fisher. I'll just give some introductory comments and then turn it over to Mark. I think you're familiar with where Soul Fisher is located up north on Highway 20. That's a two-parcel ownership situation owned by the same individual. There's a combination of uses on the property, currently comprised of auto body repair, maintenance and service, as well as storage. And those uses would have been there at the time that the new ordinance was adopted in 2006. So some of the use that is currently going on there is legally grandfathered in as a legal non-conforming. However, to expand that now, Mark would like to add the ability to also retail sales of vehicles that he repairs in that location. And to do that in the residential business district does require a conditional use permit. So with that brief introduction, I'll turn over to Mark and he can kind of explain what it is that he'd like to do. And I think you've seen in the packet what it's going to look like. It's pretty simple, straightforward. But go ahead.
Right. Thank you. In the first step, obviously, to applying for the used vehicle license is getting the conditional use permit and zoning permissions for the state. And then I'll be following that up with a bond and insurance as well as then getting and applying for the license. But as far as looking at the facility, you should have, I believe, photographs of 8 vehicles located in front of what is the existing storage facility, the store-right storage building. That would be the display area that we would be utilizing for the used vehicles. 8 vehicles adequately fit there. There is room potentially for more, but without impeding any kind of traffic around the buildings. 8 is what we're going to request here. The display area would be at the 1713 address, which is the storage facility address. The officing would still be done through our collision mechanical repair office at 1717, which is the Soul Fisher Collision facility. As far as with that request, because the name is on the collision building, we don't need any additional signage at this point. There is an office sign that points with an arrow towards that facility on the front of the storage. As far as lighting for the display purposes, there is an existing floodlight on the front of the storage building, as well as there is a street light in that area. So no additional real changes needed. It is as I think has been noted, we're parking the vehicles on a asphalt or bituminous surface. So.
Anybody have any questions?
Is there any question on right-of-way, parking and right-of-way to the state, or no? Along the highway?
We've seen a survey description of the property, and the vehicles that are shown here cannot be onto the boulevard portion of the property or the state highway right-of-way onto the property. So that's going to have to be managed by Mark and the moving of the cars in and out. But if they do encroach upon the state highway right-of-way, they'll be notified and asked to relocate them.
Well, if nobody has any questions, do I have a motion?
This would be on resolution 2015 number 5, if you want to go ahead and recommend approval.
I guess I'll make motion to make a recommendation to approve 2015.
Number 5.
-5. All right.
I'll second.
I've got a motion by Price and a second by Mr. Longton. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
That brings us to, or actually, I guess we should have closed that first, huh, before we voted?
I'll duly note that it was closed by the commission and moved forward to bring resolution 5 up onto the agenda.
There we go. That works. That brings us to our second public hearing for the night, which is for the mural, and at this time, I'd like to open that public hearing.
Evening, Steve Davalos.
Turn it right over to Steve on this one. He has been here before on prior mural proposals, as well as this particular one for informational purposes. So I think he's pretty familiar with the process, and we'll turn it over to Steve.
Yeah. Before I start, I want to say something. I didn't know Mark was going to be here, but when Mark bought the business in town, he got active right away in the community. He joined Rotary, where I was a member, and with my prior experience in the automobile business, I reached out to make him feel comfortable. And he's been very active in Rotary. I think you're going to be your president-elect yet, or not? So he's stepping up that way, and he's actually helped us out in our program and stuff. So he's a good guy. So sorry about that, but so we have a mural that we're proposing. Sort of doing the dance between getting the grant written and approval for the mural and the business owner. Did you get the email today that I forwarded you from?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. The Bowen family owns the building that the post office is in. And I had asked them back in 2013. And at that time, he wasn't sure, but he had not seen any of the murals. And so I just asked him if he wanted a chance at it a second time, and he did, very much so. And so we started a process, and we got the grant approved from the Southeast Minnesota Arts Council, which is really exciting, and the mailman brought the check. $10,000 was in the mailbox here, I think it was a week ago Saturday. So we're excited about that. We need a conditional use permit. We start with 400 or 500 pictures 2 years ago and just start talking and talking and talking and talking, and we go that way and we go that way, and it gets down to 100, it gets down to 60. Dennis Kalo has been in the discussions as well as everybody on my board. We've even showed photos to Jim Bowen. And then we get down to the crunch time where about a week ago I had to turn 30 pictures into one mural. And it's just challenging. And then some that I thought we weren't going to use found their way into it and stuff. Dave wanted me to create a banner-style representation of the mural. And the first thing we need to say is that I used to be a used car salesman. And now I'm a financial planner and an insurance salesman. I am not an artist when it comes to rendering, okay? So I think you guys have a copy of this, correct?
Yep.
And bear in mind that that is something that I would consider in our industry approaching third grade. I mean that. So this is what I was working off of before I did that, which was requested. And it's actually better seen from a little bit of a distance. And I'm sorry for the folks at home. But murals are really, really hard to put into any type of a photo. It just can't be done. This one that got handed to you, the attempt was to show some of the sky and the stuff around the building. And the profile on this mural is exactly the same as the profile on this mural. We've never done the images. We don't even show the images to the granting company because we aren't exactly sure. And the artist needs the freedom to make the changes that he needs to at the time so that it looks good. And so I can tell you that I'm pretty certain that 50 to 70% of the images that are represented on this board are probably going to be on there. The one with the heads, I was just sort of grabbing heads to put on there for the example. In fact, we have a picture of a lady, the first person born in Cannon Falls. I don't know her name, Zach does. That's his job to know that. He was glad that I had picked her and not whoever that lady is. But I had an electronic image of that lady, so that's why she's there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, it does. And so I hope this helps you envision it a little bit, but even this doesn't do it until you see it. What I did bring, and I don't know how many copies, but we'll pass them out just a little bit. Take one and pass them on in this particular order. The first one is the mural that I saw in Heartland, Minnesota that was so attractive. But I've not seen a photo that does justice to it. And so I just thought I'd show that one to you to show you how many pictures were put on that wall. And that was done by our artist, the artist that we've used for our murals. The second one is a picture on a wall in Owatonna. He's done a number of murals in Owatonna. And he had intended to give us the concept of doing multiple pictures sort of the way that one is stacked. You know, maybe I should give the folks at home, we got, not that one, let's do this one. Can I take that one? Do I crank it down or not? I'll leave it there. I just was going to get a little closer. So, although that's an attractive mural, and when you see it, it's very impressive, but it looks awfully busy when you see it on a picture like that and stuff. So that's what happens. And so right now, this is what we're proposing. This board right here. Real interested in getting these ladies onto the mural because they were the founders of the Tuesday Club. The Tuesday Club in Cannon Falls has been very active with starting a lot of initiatives. They were the ones that decided Cannon Falls needed a library, and they got it done. And they were the ones that decided Cannon Falls needed a historical society, and they were the ones that, from scratch, found the people to do that. We'd like at least someone to see a picture of downtown when we had horses and wagons and stuff like that. Our artist suggested this picture of Colonel Colville, old man Colville and young man Colville put together. And when I married him that way, I was excited, but he'll make him look better. This is Schofield's. If you get a copy of the picture, you can see through the door, across the mill pond, over to where the bench shell is. And over here, this is the first house in Cannon Falls, with the early settlers standing in front of it. And I had rejected that one many times because we weren't sure how it was going to set up. But it worked in that. I don't know if we're going to really do the heads. That's my passion. It's not the artist's. And he holds the brush. We pay him, okay? And we put this panel in here. This is just a picture of the side of the monument up at Colville, just to show you what a brass plaque looks like with words. And the reason for that is that there's going to be some language on this mural somewhere. And the original idea was to have a storyboard right here. Although just tonight, as I was doing this white core, it almost looks like there's enough room to just say first house in Cannon Falls with early settlers or something like that, you know. Schofield Drug or Tuesday Club. So we could see that verbiage, the words spread across the mural. Like to give the artist the freedom to do that. So we've got the stone mill, we've got the harvest mural, and we've got the biker mural, and he's done a good job. So that's sort of where we're headed, and we need to get the conditional use permit to paint it. And he would like to start before the 4th of July.
Anybody have any questions?
Did you say it was the same artist that's done the previous two?
Yes, his name is Steve Delight. He's from South Waseca, and there's a couple of items. Dennis Kalo was just incredibly impressed when Steve brought his portfolio up before we did the first murals. And then he likes Cannon Falls, and he's not as expensive as other murals. And it would be hard pressed to find somebody to do what he does for us for the price that he does. So we're real lucky to have him.
So Steve, so it's clear, is it going to be more like the one that you show versus the connected ones here?
Right. A year and a half ago, we were talking about doing it like in Heartland. Our board was and the artist was. And our artist suggested that we not do it that way. And when I showed Dennis Kalo one of these mock-ups, not this one, but the other one that I had the last time I was here, we all agreed that we liked this better than like a overlapping desktop. So it is not aimed to be that style right now.
So the board picks the photos and the artist does the layout.
And the board is very flexible on the photos.
So even within the photo alternatives that he has, he will still select these 3, these 4, these 5, these 6.
If we're laying it out and he says, there was a concern about the size of the people and their faces in this area here, although if you look at the harvest mural, he did a good job of that a little bit. And I don't like it when us lay people start deciding whether he can do it or not. We wait for him to tell us. I don't know if you can see that or not, but will these people come out well? And if it can't be done that way, then that picture gets deselected and something similar might go in there. And then I might get rejected on the floating heads. But nobody else wanted to do it, so I got to. That's how that works. So it's great for the board to have the definitive image. Sorry. Although, you know, and I thought I had brought it. We were going to do another mural this year. I think I talked about that. And I don't know if I brought it, but I'm not going to bring it out. But the family salon, the building is owned by Davalos Larson. We had hoped to do that this year. We'll probably try to do it next year and then probably be done with the mural thing, because that's enough.
What'll be the background be colored white or any specific color in the background, or?
Don't know. That one truly is up to the artist
Okay.
to have that,
I just,
to set it up. One of the things, if you take a look, and it was sort of done serendipitously, but Steve likes to involve high school kids, and Nicolette Hernke just got involved with it, and it was a blessing for these kids that were able to learn. it was made a lot more work for the artist. But he sent a couple of the students up to the museum to look at picture frames. And he says, let's put a picture frame around the stone mill mural. And they came back with one, and he was real impressed with their eye for it. And so when you look at the stone mill mural, sit back by the safety building and look at how it's framed, it is that picture frame. And I've talked to the artist about putting that frame on every one of our murals, even ones that we've already done. It would cut into the biker mural on Brewster's too much. But that mural, or that frame that he put on there was a lot of work, but what makes that mural pop. And so there will be some definition, and that again is part of the problem here, is there was no way for me to put a frame around those. I was so proud after 5 hours when I got that done, and then it wouldn't render. My computer didn't have enough power to render. I had to throw it away. My son, if you're watching this, so this is what my son does, okay? So we won't show him this.
If any of the property owners were to ever sell the buildings with the murals, would the new owners, are they obligated to keep them? Is there something with the city code that says they have to, or are they free to paint over them if they want?
Good question. In fact, I borrowed a document from Ottawa, Illinois, on a series of murals that they've done in that town, although most of the business owners haven't felt a need to deal with it, but it protects them and us. But the one thing I've said to all the building owners is that if the mural becomes aged or decrepit or isn't doing it, you know, we'll paint it over. You just paint it right over. So you asked, Dave, and I wasn't prepared for that question.
Maintenance.
Maintenance, yep, exactly. And the meeting was towards the end, and I wasn't on my toes for that one a little bit. What's really interesting is one of the questions that the artist gets asked many, many, many times is this a special paint? And he sort of says, well, it is and it isn't. It's house paint. And he said, house paint is designed to hold up. Now, the ones with the south exposure will have the most deterioration and stuff. And I think our biggest risk is if we ever lose this artist. If this artist is around 20 years from now and we need him touched up, you write a grant or you get some of the funding. I mean, we raised all the money for the Brewster mural just by asking people, and we get a lot of feedback. So if we get to a point where the murals are tired, paint them over. Maybe we'll put different pictures on the walls.
Always be nice.
What?
Be nice, change it up a little.
Yeah, the first mural, which was Burkhart's, and I know Jim pretty well, I said, Jim, I will come down myself and paint over it if we need to do that to honor you. Okay. So we're not seeing an issue that way. I think there might be a bigger issue if there was a accident and a car came off the road and went into one of the walls. That can happen in the city parking lot. It can happen at the post office. It can happen at Burkhart's. And so there's no insurance on the murals. We just would, the owner would fix the wall because it's his building. And then we either would cover the mural or bring the artist back to fix the mural. And we've thought about a sinking fund, but haven't gotten that far, but we probably will have a little bit of a sinking fund for that. That was a good.
I think what you got going here is a good idea. I don't see where we should be standing in the way, and if we need to get painting by 4th of July, we better get after it.
Yeah, he's got another project, and what was interesting is on the first two, I had a hard time getting him up here because he couldn't finish the other one, so he put this one ahead. And our granting company, Southeast Minnesota Arts Council, requires that there's a capstone event, which is really a celebration. And so I've already designed the celebration. We've got a guy, he's not contracted yet, but he actually does Colonel Colville as an actor. And I've got a band basically lined up, and we'll have a pie and ice cream social down in that parking lot, just like we have in other years, and there'll be about 5 stage events, and it'll be a lot of fun, and we'll celebrate and connect with our past.
I think it's a good deal, so I'm gonna make a motion here.
Close the hearing.
I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. That brings us to discussion item.
I can't really see where we went wrong on any of the others, so I'd sooner leave it up to them than me have some input in it.
Well, I've got a motion by Mr. Price to pass resolution 2015-6.
Correct.
I'll second that.
And I've got a second by Mr. Lundell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
That brings us to number 8, which is Planning Commission member comments. Anybody got anything?
I don't.
Dan?
No.
I'll just mention to the commission that you're probably aware that the recommendation for the rezoning in and around the hospital, the former hospital, was approved by the city council. Mayo's going ahead with the demolition of the building not later than mid-August, so that is proceeding. The Cannon Falls Housing Initiative is purchasing the lot on the east end and the lot on the west end, so they'll have the 2 corner lots. And Goodhue County Habitat for Humanity is buying the other 2 interior lots. So the 4 lots are sold, the 3 homes that Mayo owned are sold. The parking lot area to the south side of the clinic will become a neighborhood park. So the development plan that we've been working on the last couple of years will be coming to fruition pretty quickly here over the course of the next month and a half, 2 months there. And you also made a recommendation previously to approve a variance for Interstate Lumber to build their building addition onto a lumberyard storage building. That was also approved by the City Council, as recently has been the second reading of the ordinance to sell that little outlot to Interstate, and we'll be having a closing on that probably within the next week or 2. So Interstate will be going ahead and expanding the building on the project that you saw as part of the variance. City Council is selling that little outlot, that little remnant outlet piece to Interstate, so that project will be done as well. Wednesday, meet with representatives of the Chamber Board and the Highway Department to talk about the, I can't figure out the right word. It's not replacement, it's the putting back of the old welcome sign. We're not replacing it, we're just putting it back. But we're working on a site that hopefully can come together with the various approvals with MnDOT ASAP, and we can move forward then with putting all the details together on that, getting back to the City Council with a proposal to put that sign back out on the south side of Highway 3, east side of 52, south side of town. So hopefully after Wednesday we'll have a pretty good idea of what we're going to have to finish up now with MnDOT on getting that sign back out. The concept plan they reviewed with Ken Peterson from Bituminous Roadways and Dave Fallon of Progressive Rail. The public hearing isn't tonight, but they have told me after the last meeting that they are going to try to be here at our meeting in July. So they've got another week or 2 to put together their documents, and we'll schedule then a public hearing. If they come in, we'll schedule a hearing for rezoning of that area related to the project concept that you saw at the last meeting by Bituminous Roadways and ProRail. So that should be at your upcoming meeting in July.
You know, on that Cannon Falls sign, maybe we could put a little sign up the side that says, "Is still here."
There is actually, I know that the Chamber Board is interested in this, and I know Hancock, since they built the original structures, is also participating with the replacement of this sign, but maybe adding underneath that sign something that advertises the historic downtown. I know that the Chamber Board has been pretty interested in that. There is kind of a rendering of how that might look and how that might appear, so there's a possibility that, that the both welcome signs would also have some additional verbiage on them, so we'll see. So it's a good suggestion, but not a great suggestion.
Well, I figured maybe that would help, help them realize it.
Right.
Didn't really go anywhere.
We don't have any reason to slow down anymore.
No. Well, and I think that's the biggest issue we've got is that traffic out there they're not required to stop anymore. And I think a lot of people made a lot of last minute decisions. I gotta stop anyway.
When are they gonna tackle the north side of town for the exchange?
86 next year. They're in the process of acquiring land and doing the final engineering, but the actual physical construction would be next year now. At 86.
When are they gonna start stacking stuff up for the power line stuff out there?
I haven't gotten a schedule from them. I know they're ready to go or with the site, but I haven't gotten a schedule from them in terms of.
They've been enlarging their work platform, I see them a little bit more.
Is that what all those trees getting cut down are for?
Mm-hmm. Along the highway.
Well, that was kinda nice just to clean the site up. All the gravel where they hauled in and stuff, that's gonna be their staging area, I think.
They have multiple spots, I think. But all the trees getting cut down along 52
Yeah,
south of
that's
town.
what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about two different things. You got the staging area up north for the
Yep.
equipment, and the actual installation is where I think some of these trees have been removed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there wasn't much up on this site.
I thought maybe that zip rail was coming for sure.
No, the stuff up, going up the big hill, that's where they're gonna set some of them big poles, isn't it?
Right.
On that side.
Right.
Anybody
I
got
have no-
anything else?
I like that Progressive Rail redid that speed bump that they have.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice now. You gotta be careful, you stay under 40 miles an hour now.
Yeah. They could have used a paver to lay the blacktop though, probably.
Yeah.
Would have been a lot smoother.
Yeah.
But
I've got a motion by Mr. Longton
Second?
and a second by Mr. Price to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.